Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie Jessica.
Today's video is going to be all about Captor Captive, which is one of my favorite tropes. Snatch them up and just, you know I love it. But before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We are still doing our Road to 1K giveaway.
Yes. And you could win 9 minutes just by subscribing to us by Beth Flynn, and follow us on Instagram for an extra entry. And I will tell you all about this book in a minute.
In a minute. Yeah. Okay. Do you like Captor Captive?
Yes and no. Sometimes it's a little much for me, depending. One of the books that I'm going to talk about, it was a little much for me and I didn't want to read it. And then I did, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, when I went to look for Captor Captive, so I've been reading obsessively for not quite 2 years. Okay. But I went to look through my books, and this book I started May 14th. All of my Captor Captive, and we have another video we're doing today. When is it? Obsessive Possessive. All are in my book that I've read since May. I don't have very much Captor Captive Obsessive Possessive in the first year and a half of reading.
Okay, so
the evolution of my tastes. Sorry, I wasn't done. The evolutions of my taste in reading, I feel like this really shows it. Because if you were to be like, let's do more contemporary rom-com-y stuff, I would be all at the beginning. So I've really changed. I just thought it was funny when I'm like, oh, every book is right here.
Yeah, and then you have my books where that's all it is. I mean, I had a list, quite the list, but if you wanted to do rom-com, I'd be like, I gotta go read some. So I get it, but I like Captor.
I just thought it was funny.
I think that is hilarious. That it shows my influence on you. I think, and you're as you've evolved as a reader. I do think most Captor Captive tends to be dark. So definitely this is your blanket. Check your trigger warnings for this whole video. Because most of the time Captor Captive is dark. I mean, let's be honest. He's stealing.
I don't know how you would have that trope without it being dark.
Yeah, he's kidnapping her. So, yeah. All right. So why don't you start us off?
I would love to.
Okay.
But I closed my book to show my notes.
Now you got to open it and find that spot.
Yes. And now I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So first up is 9 Minutes by Beth Flynn. This is a trilogy, so I don't want anybody to be misled. It is a trilogy. This is the first book in the trilogy. It is phenomenal. We read this back in July, and it will hands down be in my top 10, top 5 for the year. So this is about Grizz and Jenny. Grizz is the president of a motorcycle club. This is not Toys for Tots. This is a hardcore club that does murders and stuff like that. This is real MC, Jessica loves. So oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. So Jenny gets kidnapped from a gas station, but Jenny is, I don't know if naive is the right word, but she thinks
she's just a child.
Yeah, she's young. So she thinks she's just getting, what is she, 17 or 16?
16 or 17, I can't remember.
And she thinks this motorcycle guy is just giving her a ride home. She doesn't pay attention to the fact that he's wearing a jacket that has identifies him as part of this club gang. And then she's like, oh wait, we're going the wrong way on the freeway. And she ends up being kidnapped and held against her will at their compound. And this is how she meets Grizz. And The prologue of this book had me crying, and the prologue's not very long. I was crying hysterically. And so much happens in this book. I can't really tell you much more, but he kidnaps her. She lives there. There's Jessica, I don't even know what to say.
I think it's very important to note that it does take place in the mid 70s. So when you're going into this book and you're like, well, why didn't she just use her cell phone?
Yes.
Because, why was she so naive? Mid 70s. That's why she was so trusting. But ultimately, and I think it says this on the back of the book too, or in the like, she's the downfall of things. Like there's so much that happens.
She was 15. 15
when she got 15. And this book, this trilogy, you have to read you don't get answers to questions until you get through, but so friggin' good. I think I was calling you in the epilogue going, no, this can't be how the epilogue, this cannot be how this book starts.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The prologue, not the epilogue.
Yeah, the prologue. Sorry, the prologue, not the epilogue. Yeah, prologue.
It's so good, but so much is happening, and you will literally be on your edge of your seat. If you need to, we are here for you. Go ahead and email us, and we will happily listen to your concerns as you're reading this and your predictions of what's going to happen and your fears of what might be happening. But this book, I mean, really hands down, probably one of the most captivating books I've ever read.
And I do have to say too, we read it together. Like I started reading it first, and I was like, get your butt onto this book. I listened to it. You physically read it.
I was in Legoland, and you're like, you have to read the prologue.
Yes. And so we ended up reading it simultaneously for the most part within a day of each other, because we were like calling each other going, or sitting Marco Polos, because I was camping. How far are you into this book? Where are you at? Because I need to talk to somebody about what just happened. And so I would highly suggest, if you have a reading buddy, you read it together, because you're going to need a support system.
But we will be here for you.
Yes, we will.
You would like us to be.
Yeah.
So yes. Okay. So I'm sorry, you're probably like, but you really didn't tell us what the book was about. But we really can't. Just trust us. It's so good.
Check your triggers and go.
Yeah, definitely check triggers if you think you might have triggers. I almost feel like if you're reading a real MC book, though,
you could handle this because it happens.
Triggers are gonna be,
unless you're into Toys for Tots MC, then
yeah, no, I mean like a real MC book, there's triggers. So, and if you have triggers, Captor, Captive may not be the best trope to be reading in.
Yeah.
Depending on what they are.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Ready, Jessica?
Ready. So ready. Okay. So my first rec is called Nina. This is by Anne Bolter. This is probably the most tamest out of all the 5 books that I have, even though it's not. So this is a Viking barbarian romance. It's historical. It takes place in the 700s, I want to say. Jarl is our hero, and he is a Viking warrior, and he is out plundering, and he is out conquering, and he's out making his fortune, and he ends up down around the Baltic Sea, and that is where they attack a village. This village is having like a warrior celebration, and that is where Nina is at. Now Nina is from a different tribe, and she has come down like from the mountains to this place. She has to pick a husband, is basically what this whole warrior celebration is. And she is a warrior in her own right as well. She's a female warrior. And so she is supposed to pick this husband. Instead of that happening, this fight breaks out, and people are being slaughtered left and right. And so she gets on her horse and she starts attacking, but she gets taken in the end by Jarl. She gets chained up in his tent, and he is fascinated by her and her dark hair and her, her darker skin, and how different she is from him as a Viking. And he is intrigued by her culture, and he wants to learn more about her. So he has a slave who is of the same culture that he uses in place of her, because she won't submit to him. And so there is some other woman drama in this, but I am all about the other woman drama, let me just say. And it's just kind of sad. But it's one of those kind of epic type love stories where you're like, how is this ever going to work out? And this was good. This was really good. So she is his captive.
Okay. All right. Tomorrow I'm bumping my computer with my notes. Okay. My next book is called The Brit by Jodi Ellen Malpas.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. This is about Rose and Danny. Danny, as a boy, is like really like plucked from the streets and is raised as the only son to this mafia boss guy. And he is now running the show. Rose was forced into prostitution, and something's being kind of held over her that keeps her in line in this. And she's purposely put as a plant with the mayor. And so she is the mayor's mistress, but is being forced to be the mayor's mistress. Does that make sense so far? And she goes with the mayor to Vegas, and Danny is there because he needs some land and he needs the mayor to get, or he's like the wannabe mayor. He's running for mayor and he needs him to get like his act together so Danny can get this land that he's trying to get. And he watches everything kind of unfold and decides his best course of action to get the mayor to act is to kidnap Rose. So he kidnaps Rose. And then Rose is like really stressed out because stuff is being held over her head. And so now she's kidnapped and she doesn't know what to do because, you know, like she's supposed to be with the mayor, but now she's with him. And then she starts to have feelings for Danny, but she can't because something's being held over her head that she can't leave the life that she has because of this. It was very good. It was a 5-star read. I really enjoyed it. It was nitty and gritty. You know, I mean, it is Captor captive, but Danny kidnaps her more as a pawn and to start.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So my next rec is very, very dark. Again, check all the triggers because this is a Lauren Beale book.
Should you turn your ring light off to make it darker?
You know, I've got like about four lights going on here. Give me like 5 minutes. Okay.
Tell us about your dark rec.
Okay. So this is called Along for the Ride. This was the second release in her hitchhiking series. All the books we read as standalones, but this is an MFM. This is about Liana, and then you have Gentry and Carson, and they're brothers. So Liana has run away from home in the beginning of this book, and she meets this guy who seems like he's got it together, and he gives her drugs, and then she gets addicted to drugs, and he becomes her boyfriend, and he is abusive, and he keeps her doped up all the time so that she can't get away and she doesn't know what's happening. So she detoxes herself and tries to get away from him. And when he finds out, he beats her and he shoots her up and with drugs again. And then she is able to get away from him. So she steals a vehicle and she's trying to get away. She sees these two guys on the side of the road and she pulls over to pick them up, not realizing what she's doing. And the minute she like realizes maybe I shouldn't be doing this, that is when they pull a gun on her and they get in the car. So these two guys are brothers and they are hired assassins. And so they take her in her car and they decide that they're going to keep her alive for now, but they're probably going to kill her once they get to their destination. And they're going to go from like, I think it's New York to California. And at some point in time, they'll kill her along the way. And so she becomes their captive. She's detoxing at this point. She's very sick. And at one point she's like, I just don't care. I don't care. These brothers are insane and they are crazy. One is a psychopath and one is a sociopath. So they're nuts, but I still love the book. So, you know, they do some crazy stuff. It is Lauren Beale, guys. So, you know, keep that in mind. Mm-hmm.
Okay. My next Captor captive is Deliver by Pam Godwin. It was our buddy read. And so if you haven't read it, you probably didn't watch our live show because that would give away a lot of spoilers. So read it and then go back and watch the live show that would be over on Bookmarked by Jen's page. And so this is about Joshua and Liv. Liv is the captor.
Yes.
In this one, right?
Yeah.
I was trying to think, is there a feminine form?
I don't think so.
So she's the one doing the taking. So she lures Joshua back, kidnaps him basically because she is working for someone and she is the deliverer. So it's her job to train the slaves basically into doing what they're supposed to do. And so she captures him and flat out tortures him. And this is Pam Godwin. So much else is going on that has to unfold through the story. So when I started it, I'm like, no, I don't want to read this. Like, this is horrible. I don't see how this is going to turn around. She's an awful person to be doing this to him, to be doing this to people. And I just couldn't do it. And Jessica was gone, so she couldn't tell me to keep reading. So I left her a message. And I'm like, I'm only reading this because this is the buddy read, and I am not happy. But once I got past that, things start to come to light about what's really happening here. And it is so incredibly good. I absolutely loved it. I can't really tell you, though, what changed my mind about it because that gives away way too much. But just know that Pam Godwin knows how to write.
Mm-hmm. So this is a 9-book series, and let me tell you, if you like Captor Captive, you're gonna like all the
people.
They're all of them. I think almost all of them are Captor Captive, in some way, shape, or form.
You're gonna scare people.
Read them all. Just read them all. Just keep going. They get better as you go, which you don't think is possible.
I know. I need to go back to it, but I've just been reading all over the place right now.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I think I'm going to read a certain book and then a new one will pop up and I'm like, oh, squirrel.
Yes. I've been very restless in my reading. I actually have like 4 books going right now.
I think I do too. Yeah. It's sad.
And usually I might have 2 at a time. Like one I'm actually reading and one on Audible. And I'm not like you. I do maybe 1 or 2 Audible books a week.
Yeah.
If not, sometimes I don't do any. And so for me to have like 4 books it's like a little crazy.
I think I have 2 on Audible right now and 2 that I'm physically reading.
Oh, and those are all I'm physically reading. But I just was like, I need something angsty. And then that took me off on a different path.
Yeah. So, okay, ready?
I am.
Okay. So the next book that I have is called Time Out, and it's by Lila Simon. So this is about Nadia and Kai, or Malachi, but we call him Kai. And Nadia is in her 40s. She has a son who is in the state penitentiary, and she is going to visit him. She's been, there's some people have come to her and said, if you want to save your son's life, you will smuggle this smack into the prison. So I literally wrote in my book, smack in the snatch, because that is where it's at. She's got it in there. She's freaking out. If this opens up, it is going to kill her. If these little balloons pop, it's going to kill her. Like, she's freaking out, sweating, like, I'm going to get caught. I'm going to get thrown in prison. But she's on her way to the prison. She has to smuggle this into her son. And when she gets close to the prison, an accident occurs and an inmate, it gets out. And that is Malachi. And he steals her car and he takes her and he goes on the run. And he takes her with him while he's on the run. Now, Malachi is roughly her son's age. So this is a reverse age gap where she is older and he is younger. But he takes her as his captive and they go on the run together. So yeah, how's that going to work out for you?
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, yeah. By the way, he's the one that gets the smack out of her.
Jessica. That is very dangerous.
Very dangerous. Yes. I don't think that scene was supposed to be as hot as it was, but oh my gosh. Just saying, guys. Just saying. Okay. What else you
got? Okay, so I am going to take a step back a little bit from what I said because my next Captive actually would be very light on the warnings if it has them.
Okay. So
this one, she is actually taken captive, but she doesn't know it.
I know what you're talking about. Okay.
So this is Silas by Lane Hart and D.B. West. And I've talked about this book before because I really, really love it. Cora is hired as a personal chef, and while she's cooking dinner and everything, she witnesses this group of guys come in and start killing people. And she hides in the pantry, and they decide to let her go. So she hightails it out of there and goes into her own hiding. And she's really nervous because the police are like, well, if you're not going to give us any information, we know you were there. If you're not going to give us any information, obviously you were in on it. So she's like, oh, so she gives them a little bit of info and then goes back into her own hiding. And then somebody shows up and says, hey, I'm from the FBI. You need to go into Whitpro right now. Like, this is like not good. Let's go. And so she's like, oh, thank God somebody's taking this serious and is going to protect me. So she leaves with the FBI agent. He takes her out to this island. They're somewhere on the East Coast, and like they have to take a ferry to the island. And he takes her there. He's got this nice house for her. He gets her all set up. But what she doesn't know is he's not an FBI agent. He's from the MC club that was killing all the people at the boss's house. So I'm laughing about this, but I absolutely love this book. So it does have the MC element. They obviously came in and killed people, so they're not Toys for Tots MC. But it doesn't have a ton of the dark elements that you would have with Captor Captive, because she literally doesn't know that she's been captive.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I really enjoyed it. And when I went back to look at this, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to go back and read more in this series.
Yeah.
That is mine.
I want to be that naive and be like, oh, I just get a nice house on an island and Whitpro and yeah.
There's a lot more stuff that happens where you're like, huh, how has she not figured anything out?
How are you that
good? I'm laughing about it, but it's not written like a comedy. It's a really good book. So please don't take my laughing about how naive she is. Like, it's just funny when you think about it, but the book is really, really good.
Okay. So mine's dark. My next one is dark. Obviously. I mean, hello, right?
Would this be Bestie Book Reviews if yours weren't dark?
No, it wouldn't. No.
That reminds me, I wanted to change the name because I'm still mad at you about that one book you told me to read, Lost Soul.
We're not changing the name to just book reviews or best book reviews. Every once in a while you liked the book. Okay, so my next rec is, like I said, it's dark. It's called Suffer in Silence by Kelsey Clayton. This is a duet, so there are 2 books in this series. So this is about Cage and Saxon. So Saxon is a med student, and she's going to college. She's been raised as a socialite. She's very close to her grandfather, and when we open up, her grandpa is dying of a heart condition, and he's in the hospital, and there's nothing they can do to save him. And so she runs into this, tall, dark, and extremely dark and handsome guy in the hospital when she's visiting grandpa, and there's something about him that just kind of tweaks her interest. And then she sees him later on at a nightclub when she goes out with her best friend, and her friend warns her away from him. She's like, oh yeah, that's that guy, and he's trouble. Stay away. Well, once grandpa dies, some things about the family are unearthed, and things that she is completely unaware of. And we find out grandpa is a part of the mafia, and there were things that were promised to Cage that were not given to Cage when grandpa dies. And so they take Saxon. Cage steals her as ransom. He steals her to ransom her, and he keeps her at his compound. Now, this is not, again, one of those where I'm going to keep you and I'm going to put you in this floral little bedroom, and you're going to get, the maid that comes in every day, and you're going to get run of my compound. And, no, this is weird. You're here. There's nothing in the room but a mattress, and you're treated very, very poorly for the majority of this first half of this book. And it's not one of those cutesy little captives. He's not a good guy. I mean, he eventually softens towards her, but it takes quite a while. So there's a lot of emotions, especially in the second book. The emotions in this book are pretty high, but very, very good. And I like it when they're not like, oh, I'm keeping you as captive, but I'm going to keep you in, in the lap of luxury. Like, if you're supposed to be captive, then you need to be a captive. So I like that.
Well,
Captive 101 by Jessica.
and Deliver by Pam Godwin. He is definitely captive.
No. Yeah, he's not kept in the lap of luxury, that's for sure.
So maybe you wouldn't like Silas then. But
I would still read it for fun, I think. For funsies.
I think you just have to know it's a difference. So if you're like, do I like this? Do I want to read this? You'd always try out Silas and see how you feel if you want to go darker. But it's definitely like when you read it, you wouldn't be like, ooh, this is captive because she doesn't know.
Yeah.
But isn't that fantastic? Like, I love that storyline that she goes willingly thinking he's the FBI agent and she starts to fall for him and he's not an FBI agent.
I'd go thinking it was a vacation. It's all good. It is all good. So,
I got
an eyelash in my eye.
This should be my last book.
Yeah, I got one after this. Yep, I got one more.
All right, so my next book is Merrick by S. Nelson, another favorite of mine. This is MC, it's dark, and there is pretty horrific on-page abuse. So, triggers, always, but especially with this one. It is the first book in the Knight's Corruption series. Love the whole series. So this is about Cole Merrick. He is the president of his MC club, Knight's Corruption, and he decides to kidnap the president's daughter of a rival gang, but this other gang is just horrific in how they treat their women and how they just deal with stuff. And so Sully is the daughter, and he goes in and kidnaps Sully. And he takes her back to his compound and immediately has a wedding ceremony and marries her to him legally, and feels like this is the ultimate slap in the face of this MC group because he just took their prized possession basically and married her. Like, woohoo, like how to slap it to him. But what he doesn't know is that Sully has been abused horribly in this compound, and he actually just rescued her from a nightmare. And he slowly starts to kind of fall for her. I love this book. I love the whole series. It's so good, but it is definitely your nitty gritty, I think those are the words Jessica uses, MC. So obviously triggers, dark, but it was so good. I loved it.
It was good. I read it too. Yeah, it was good.
Yes.
Okay, so my last one. I can't tell you a lot about this one because we find out a lot of the things as the book progresses, but let me tell you what I can about it. So this is Better Run by Alina May. Again, very dark. So this is a MFM. This is about Jaden, Cole, and Mary Jo. So Jaden kidnaps Mary Jo. He stalks her and then he kidnaps her. And she becomes his captive. Now she has a boyfriend and she, and has a best friend, and he actually leaves notes from them or a text from her phone or something. I cannot remember. And I seriously read it 2 days ago. Some emails, he email, I think. Anyhow, tells them that she got a job and she, out of town, she's a, influencer. She has a cooking channel and she's made it big. And so he uses that to say that she'd been given a job offer, that she's going to be in an area where she can't contact anybody, and he kidnaps her. And so when he does this, he takes her to a remote cabin, and then his buddy Cole shows up. So we don't know in the beginning what his motives are and why. And why is Cole involved? Where does Cole come from? This has all the triggers. Like this has and all the tropes. This has like the whole, like he chases her down kind of a thing. He likes to do that. She's not treated very well. She doesn't have shoes and it's snowing. So like she can't really go anywhere kind of a situation. This book has it all. But again, I can't tell you the why and the how of it because you have to read the book. It starts to tell you as you get into the book. So I loved this book, obviously. But again, dark. Very dark. So go read it. It's all good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. So hopefully we captivated you with our Captor Captive recommendations. Hopefully you found something you liked.
So leave us a comment. Do you like this trope, Captor Captive? If so, what are some of your favorites? And are any of these books like going on your TBR? Are you going to read any of them? Like, tell us all the book things. And then make sure to check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us.
Until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.